Have you ever thought just how boring or ridiculous news commentary is today? Welcome to the Real Jacks Podcast with Jim and Larry. The Real Jacks Podcast. From crime and politics to entertainment, you can expect something different. Now, let's get real, Jacks.
Real Jacks with Jim and Larry is brought to you by
Extreme Wings, 4 convenient locations, family sports restaurant and grill, more than just wings. Tremendous Barbecue, open since 2007, 8927 Hurlong Road, open 11 to 8, Tuesday through Saturday, and Sunday 11 to 3. Full barbecue menu, everything homemade, they cater anything, and they love first responders. Advanced Window Tint, 5024 Sunbeam Road, over 26 years experience. 3M Platinum Dealer, highest level of 3M dealer around. They tint vehicles, homes, and businesses. Secure One Protection Services, number one choice for protection since 1986. 356-1111. D-Way Towing, 100 South Jackson Avenue. Phone number is 904-356-3929. They take care of all your towing needs. See our friend Doug Dixon. Wild West Guns and Gold, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Stop in and visit them and their professional staff for all your hunting and shooting sports equipment. They have great customer service with competitive prices. Remember, Wild West Guns and Gold, our friends at Wild West. Vic Gibran, he's a good friend and great business owner and looks out for folks on the west side. They're on Lane Avenue. Go see him. Norman Brewer for Jacksonville District 11 City Council. We need fighters that will truly represent us on the city council. Norman Brewer is that guy. He's a constitutional conservative, former law enforcement officer, successful businessman. Norm will call it like he sees it, and you will have no better advocate on the council.
Hey, welcome back to Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, and Crawfish. Today's special guest, my old friend, former Jacksonville firefighter, Jason Kerr.
Good afternoon, folks.
Outstanding. What? Crawfish, why are we looking at Europe and Asia? Is that just places that have opened? Oceania, what the hell was that?
Australia. Yeah.
Okay.
They're listening to our podcast right now.
Right.
They must have nothing better to do to be in Australia listening to what's going on in Jacksonville.
Right.
Hey, Kerr. Everybody knows Miss Kerr Dog. Some people know Miss Kerr Dog. But before we get into the Kerr story, tell us who your mom was.
All right, so my mom is a bit of the city of Jacksonville, actually Duval County before it was consolidated. She was the first female news reporter for the Florida Times Union / Jacksonville Journal when they had 2 different papers running. She covered many different areas, but her love and her biggest tenure was split between the courthouse and City Hall. And she had many historical interviews. When MLK was arrested in St. Augustine, they kept him up here in jail because the jail up here was air conditioned.
Was that in 64?
Yeah. And
at that Motor Lodge or whatever?
Yeah. And so she interviewed Martin Luther King.
Very cool.
I've got a death threat letter from Ted Bundy when she covered the Bundy trials because they moved it here to Jacksonville.
Give everybody her name.
Jessie Lynn Kerr. And if you ever go in off of Riverside, you come down right there, either northbound by Forest or southbound by where the Times Union used to be is Jessie Lynn Kerr Parkway. And February 25th has been decreed by the mayors, all 7 living. Now, unfortunately, Mayor Godbold and Mayor Austin have passed away, but is Jessie Lynn Kerr Day.
Awesome.
So she was a tough old New York broad, but she
Everybody
kept the
knew her,
truth.
though. Yeah.
Good for her.
She was a straight shooter, yeah.
Yep.
She'd have a field day with City Hall today, wouldn't she?
I would hate to see what she would do. She saved the treaty tree downtown and also got on Florida DOT for misspelling Phillips Highway.
With the 2 L's?
Yeah, she's the one that corrected that.
Yeah.
And if Mark Woods ever listens to this, he would always say, your mom would wear me out if my story had any grammatical errors to it or any historical value. But my mom, like I was saying earlier, I always told my mom, why don't you write a history about, because you covered before consolidation. Mm-hmm. She said, son, I know where all the bodies are buried.
That's right. Hey, one of our former guests, Mike Tolbert, you know who Mike Tolbert is, knew your mom really well, had a lot of respect for her. And, he's a writer.
Yeah, Mike, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, my two biggest supporters and took care of my mom was Mike Tolbert and Hank Cox.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, they, and my mom was the type when we found out that Sunday that she had stage 4 lung cancer, she got out her little steno pad and started writing down, where I'm a basket case, because at the time it was just me and my mom. And once my mom passed away, now it's just me. Luckily I'm married. But she was just a tough old broad. She she went through 4 remissions, and I said, Mom, number 4, you're kicking its ass. And she's like, kid, I'm not gonna beat cancer. Let's just enjoy as much time as we can.
Your mom was tough, but she was fearless, man. Nobody intimidated your mom. Reminds me of like his mom.
I would be on
or my mom.
I'd be on
they were old school like that.
Off of Emerson at the Emerson Arms Apartments at 3 a.m, and there's my 75-year-old mom.
I remember seeing you there
because she's covering the homicide beat. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
I got it, Sonny. Don't worry. I'm like, okay.
Jeez. Well, she put off that vibe that nobody was going to mess with her.
No.
Yeah. Well, good. I just had to mention your mom, man.
No, I do appreciate that. She was definitely a part of Jacksonville's history, and it's glad that I became who I am because of her. I try to live my day knowing that she's upstairs looking down at me, and I want to make her proud, because I will not lie, I was a pain in the ass as a kid.
Yeah, we all were.
Yeah.
Man, I know I was.
Yeah. My mom's picture is one of them is in my master bedroom. And I see it every morning, and she's looking right at me. No matter how you walk by that picture, her eyes are looking right at you. And it's I always kind of stop and go, oh, hey, Mom. Love you, Mom. But I know she's a reminder that I need to keep my shit together every day.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's still watching me.
I found when I was going through my mom's stuff, cleaning out her house, I came across a letter she wrote the day after I was born to me.
Oh, man.
Wow.
And I framed it, and then right there, it sits right at the entrance of my door. So when I wake up and I walk out my bedroom door, I see that picture. And right down at the bottom, I kept her favorite pair of slippers. And I always leave it there because I have been guilty of it before, and I still am today, as I will judge people without walking a mile in their shoes. So I always look at, my mom was a tough old broad, and if she could handle the stuff she went through, family life, alcoholism, my brother's suicide, all that, and still rocked on that, she was just, life is not a dress rehearsal. You got one day, you got one shot only. You better make the best of it. Suck it up. I would call her and complain. She goes, do you have your arms? Yes, ma'am. Do you have your legs? Yes, ma'am. You have all your senses? Yes, ma'am. Quit your bitching. Click.
Good for her.
Yeah. Yeah. She was definitely one you didn't call, trying to
get some sympathy.
Trick. That would not work.
Oh, I'm having a tough day. Suck it up. So I've known you a long time.
Yes,
we go way back. I think before you were a firefighter.
30 years.
And you were a career firefighter.
Yeah.
You retired as a lieutenant, spent time as an engineer and doing, you had a lot of specialized training.
Yeah.
I remember when y'all used to come by in Atlantic Beach when you worked for Atlantic Beach late at night and come by and pick me up in the fire truck. You'd pull up in front of my house and y'all would blow the horn. And I'm like, oh, gotta go. And I'd run out and jump in the truck with you guys. And this is 1980 something.
Oh yeah,
and we
early 80.
And we just drive around for an hour or so.
There's a known story of that Jim is also a antique fire truck enthusiast.
Yeah. And not so antique, some late model ones.
Yes.
that we've had a little fun in.
But there was one night we were in a former Jack's Beach fire engine.
Fully marked.
Marked.
Everything, right
With a lot of young ladies on board, because we were like, the fire truck's going to be the aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
And we pulled into Jack's Liquors.
Drive-through.
Yeah.
In a city truck.
In a
fully
city
equipped,
truck, yeah.
fully marked, everything.
Chief Brown made contact, said, please cover up the city of Jacksonville.
Well, I got a letter from him.
Yeah,
I got a letter from him. But apparently the phones at the fire department started just ringing off the hook. One of your trucks are going through the Jack's Liquors, and they've got women in there, and they're getting drinks and stuff. And I think even the cops stopped us. And of course you're with me.
Yeah.
So you're with me. So back then it was like, they were like, "Oh, just keep going.
Yeah, it's better just
it's okay.
Just turn around and not
he hangs out the window and yells at him and tells him to leave. Man, we're busy. And they bug off.
So
he's the only guy I knew that could walk up to the sheriff and give him a hug and pick him up off the ground and get away with it. So
no, he's doing good work at the state level, national level for us.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the interesting things that occurred in your career, and I'm sure there's a lot. We're being first responders. We get a front row seat to a lot of stuff that people only see on the news. So,
well, I'm 52 years old. I started in the fire service in 1986 when I went through minimum standards. I got hired on Atlantic Beach Fire Department I don't think I was 21 yet, and there was 9 of us, and this is 1988, I believe. And we were called the Beach Boys because it was a 9-man department, 3 guys a shift. And there's only like 3 guys that were over 21. It was either 18 to 20. And the department, I called it Mayberry FD. We had the best equipment around, but just that small town politics.
It was you, Jimmy, Bass, and one of the McHughes, right? Was that the initial group?
Yeah. I mean, there's some other guys way before that, but the era I got on. And so it was good because we called it John Wayne time. If you got an oceanfront house on fire, it was 3 of us until
somebody else showed up.
The city of Jacksonville came to the cavalry, and helped us out. But I've and I try to tell people is that we all see things on calls. But the biggest thing to me that I've tried to tell every girlfriend I ever dated, because I would come home whether I was engaged or dating a serious relationship and crawl right in bed, and like the whole thing was, well, all you did was sleep, because that's the perception. And yes, there's sometimes we sleep, sometimes you go by, you see us washing our truck, sometimes you see us doing this, sometimes you see us doing that. But I've always told people, and I told the city of Atlantic Beach Council, yeah, there's sometimes you'll look at us like, I can't believe we're paying them for what they're not doing. But there's other times you can't pay me enough for what we do. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're paying us for. Mm-hmm. You're paying all the firefighters throughout the nation, wherever you live or in the world, that when you call whatever emergency number that gets them to respond, they're going to drop everything and they're going to come and they're going to put their lives on the line for you. And that's the most important thing that people need to understand. But you can never relax at the fire station. Yeah, I mean, you go in there and sometimes you see guys on recliners or on couches.
You never know that horns are going off.
But you never know when that's going to go off. And this one girl I dated, every time I got up, and this is when I was off of Division Street in downtown Jacksonville, back during when the Miami boys and when crack first hit, and we're going to 7-8 shooting today.
Everybody had machine guns.
Is every time I got on the rig, I would call her, wake her up. Every time I got back to the station, I call her, wake her up. Just to set a point. I know it's me probably being a dick, but still, I just and what it goes back to that, until you do the ride, until you're there 24 hours. And the bad thing is sometimes we sleep all day. I mean, that's just
a lucky. That's just like easy day.
And that's the thing. There's all first responders are in the business of what if. What if? And you can't plan that out. You would think a Sunday would be a nice, quiet, day of God and have your busiest day. Mm-hmm. Then you're thinking Saturday, oh man, we're going to be rocking. We're going to get a house fire, a couple of shootings, and crickets.
Full moon. Think it's going to be crazy, right?
So there was no rhyme and reason, and I just always you had to be in that mindset to make sure that you were just mentally prepared for what you've seen. And the thing that I took back personally from the fire service is that every morning we meet at the table, and the kitchen table is where all firefighters solve world problems. And we sit there and we always eat together, and we bitch about the department, the politics. Oh, I'm behind on my truck payment. This is where we bitch and moan.
All about family life, everything.
But then you go to that kid that's been in his diapers for a week straight, and he's got, feces coming out, and he's got a skin infection from it, and it really hits home that, you think you got it bad.
Life ain't so bad.
Somebody else has it just as worse, and it keeps you in check, or it should keep you in check.
Yeah.
So, I am
a lot of regular eye openers.
Yeah, I got hired on Jacksonville in 1996, promoted to driver engineer. My specialty was hazardous materials and weapons of mass destruction.
Tell us what happened in '96. Big deal.
What happened?
Was it '96?
What?
The big tank farm fire, Talleyrand.
Oh no, that was a little bit early. No, it was 90. That was 93, I think.
It was right after Jaguar game. It was the first year of the Jaguars, and
I honestly
had just left the game. In
first year of Jaguars was '95.
Was it? Then it was '95.
Yeah, it was. Because '96 was kind of a quiet year.
I thought you worked that.
Well, I was still Lang Beach. I was just getting hired on Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
And so we sent a couple of guys over there to help work that tank fire. And it's those things that when I'm in diapers in a retirement home or nursing home or wherever I'm at, those are certain memories. The tank farm, just the ominous sight of 2.5 million gallons of gasoline burning, and I had started riding with the hazmat team voluntarily, and knew that whenever I got on Jacksonville, this is who I'd want to be with. And that's eventually where I went, 93. And was it 93?
Yep, right on.
Bam, thank you. Say you're sorry, Jim.
Well, there was a big fire, a big tank farm fire right after a Jag game, right the first or second year of the Jaguars.
It was off of Talleyrand. It was a big one. It was a lightning strike, and it looked big, but it wasn't as big as that one.
Okay, so I know that happened right after I left the game.
Myself.
Okay,
but no, it was interesting waiting through about 3 or 4 feet of gasoline when we crawled over the berm area that's there to contain the tank contents in case they do split open. But Jacksonville Fire Rescue's claim to fame is we had the first fire-based paramedic transport system in the world. We were number one in that. And then we were also the first fire-based hazardous materials team in the world. So, City of Jacksonville's it's been pioneers a lot. And with the support of the administration from City Hall, this department has the best equipment around. When I got on the job, there was only 13 or 20 ambulances, and now every fire station has one, and it's just the equipment, the technology, and what the city's investing in this. And the fire departments, I'm not sure the exact number, we're top 10 largest, somewhere in there, and then we're also the top 10 in the busiest in the United States. So, and that's, I just tell people everything that I have bad luck follow me around, whether it was my bachelor party, airplane trip where a guy had a medical emergency and we're administering drugs to him on the plane, saving his life, or we have a fire department get-together called the Fireball, which is mainly for the wives. Wives get to dress up. We affectionately call it the prom. But, I'm there hungover, ready to check out, and the guy in front of me goes into cardiac arrest. And I'm like, really?
Jeez.
But that's the thing about the nature of being a fireman or law enforcement or first responder. It's in your nature. Hey, once you get off shift, you're never off shift.
Yeah.
And whenever you get that mindset that you're never off shift, then it's time for you to quit the job. I mean, if you're not that, hey, no matter what happens, I'm going to stop. I'm going to render aid. I'm going to help people out. So,
But you still do that today, though.
oh yeah. I carry a little med pack in the back of my truck, and I'm also armed.
As you should be.
And my wife's like, "Why do you have that much ammo?"
You got to take a life or save one.
She's like, "Why do you have that much ammo in the back of?"
What wasn't
the
there
truck?
a time you were on some special detail or something where you had to carry a firearm? And
Yeah, well,
what was that exactly?
so because of my attraction to the hazardous materials field and weapons of mass destruction, I was able to get into some federal and military classes, which then opened up the door I'm in now. I'm now a military contractor. And before that, I worked for the Department of Homeland Security. And before that, it was Office of Domestic Preparedness. I started that right after September 11th. And so there were some details I would go on from the hazardous materials aspect where we could be armed. Plus, I went through SWAT medic school. I was in theory.
that might have been what I was thinking of. Yeah.
So I did some work for some agencies, but when it gets back to the carrying a personal firearm, my mentality is, I told Stacy, I'm not going to be a witness to a massacre. I'm going to just do like what that brave kid did at the mall. I'm going to engage. If I can't kill him, I'm going to at least engage him until other people get there. And if you're not with me, I'm going to call 911 and give them my description. The same as, Stacy, you're with me, tell him, hey, he's a retired fireman, he's got this. So, but, and unfortunately we're in a day and age where you have to be that way. You have to think that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of that guy, he was only 22 years old and apparently took that guy out at 40 yards with a pistol. Pretty impressive.
Yeah,
10 shots, eight hits.
Yeah, 10 shots, 8 hits, and no collateral damage. There were other people around and didn't anybody else. So pretty impressive.
Posted it up on a column.
What's that?
He posted up on a column.
Oh, he did?
Took his time, yeah.
I didn't get the whole story on it, but
unfortunately, I think the more, anybody that's going to do a mass shooting is probably looking to be killed by police but some of the classes I've been through on the law enforcement side, they usually say when someone of that nature gets challenged, they either take their own life or they surrender or they fight looking to be shot. That's their end game. Me personally, if you're not happy with your life, go out in the woods and take your own life. Why take an innocent person's life?
Sad part is most most active shooters are over in the first 2 minutes, and it takes law enforcement, average time nationwide is what? 7,
not going into Uvalde, but that I just I remember, and I'm glad that when I got on the fire department and in this profession, that I was around when we had steel tanks, we had open cab trucks. It would kill me. Oh man, the air conditioner's broken in the fire engine, and I'm like, listen here, rookie. Back in the day, we got rained on. But I tell people when I teach hazmat, is that policies and procedures are based on historical events. Until we have another shooting, or until we have another hazmat incident, or until they invent new chemicals or something like this, it's going to be the same procedures.
It's going to be,
Because I remember back in the day, it was the first 4 officers post up, make a diamond, and you go in and you go to the shooting, And I don't know if that's changed.
Stop the killing, stop the diamond. But there's no diamond anymore. It can be one person now.
Yeah, I mean,
that should be. Stop the threat. That's immediately go in. If there's one of you, if there's 2 of you, it doesn't matter.
My belief is if you show up at
create a contact team. A contact team can be 1, it can be 4, be whatever. But
you show up at an active shooter scene and you're by yourself, and whether you're on duty, off duty, or civilian, and all you got is a .380 pocket pistol, Well, you're going to do what you got to do, and it's your fate.
Down.
It's your fate.
Yeah.
If you die, you die. But you can't sit there and listen to the bullets. I mean, the shots
kids.
go. Yeah, and knowing there's kids in there,
Children
anybody in there. Yeah,
and that's,
even if it's Winn-Dixie or whatever.
And that's the bad thing is, to hear that some of those kids were viable patients and bled out just because of the time sitting there. So I'm sure there's going to be way more repercussions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. For a while, but it's deserving. I mean, it's your job. Do your
100%.
job. Yeah. Michelle Cook has that one saying, our job's to run towards the bullets, not run away from them. Yeah. If you run away from them, you're in the wrong profession. Yeah. So
good time to get out if it ever happens. And some people have done that.
Yeah.
I know a few stories where they kind of went the other way and they had to have a sit down. It's like, look, this is a good time for you to get out of this business.
Yeah, and you know what?
If that's
because I've never been challenged
respond.
like that. I can easily say I don't know how I'd react. I mean, the one soldier in Saving Private Ryan, as he cowered, I'm like, hell, that could be me. I don't know how I would actually react when I've got bullets whizzing by me. Well, you run into burning houses. I'm like, yeah, but that's a different that's a different thing to me.
And some of y'all do get affected by that. All my family was firefighters.
Yeah.
So one of my uncles, Steve Leggett, was back during the riots, when we had riots here, was it the 60s, I guess? They were downtown. I think he was in Station 4, but he was up on a ladder, went up a ladder, burning building. They were burning stuff down towards downtown.
Is that Jefferson Street 4?
Yeah. Jefferson Duval.
And he was at some fire at some building, and he went up. He says, I went up the ladder, and I heard bullets whizzing by me. He's like, I'm gonna let it burn. He crawled right back down the ladder. He's like, I'm not gonna get shot while I'm trying to save the house. Yeah. They had some crazy stories, and you have some.
Yeah,
we want to hear some of those.
We talked about a good one on the phone that kind of give people an example of what gang life is in Jacksonville, and where it was a kind of an accident where they went after the wrong car, and what the results were from that. And the results were terrible. In respect to the victims and the victim's family, that'd be a good story to tell. You don't have to give all the details, but that was a pretty bad story.
And this is back in the mid 90s when I was at Station 7, and we had the Miami Boys. This is when Flag Street Apartments, you didn't go in there without the full zone of law enforcement escorting you in. And, the tit for tat would be, okay, let's go shoot this guy. And then their people would find out who shot him, and then they'd go shoot the people that shot him. And it would just go back and forth.
Usually for a couple of days.
Right. And well, this was our seventh shooting of the day.
Yeah.
And
retaliation.
We roll up on it, and we actually slowed real down because, being somewhat of a law enforcement because of my SWAT medic, just hundreds of rounds in the street. And I knew that's evidence, and we always mess with cops. Don't park your car in front of the fire and lock it.
Right.
Well, don't drive through the crime scene, and now we're digging expended rounds out of tire tread. So I stopped short, and as we're walking up, the car's still smoldering.
Oh, I know this one.
Yeah.
And the guy had killed another guy. They knew who the guy was. They knew where he lived. They posted out of his house waiting for him to come home. Well, they didn't know that he had dropped his car off for his mother to pick up his sons from football practice. And when they came around the corner, two of them had AK-47s, and they just unloaded hundreds of rounds. And when we pulled up, Grandma still had agonal breathing. She was what we call guppy breathing, but I've never seen a body of those two young boys just obliterated. I mean, those are one of those things that just
stick with you.
Stick with you, big time. So, I've been to shootings here and there. After I left 7, I went to Station 21 right off of Powers Avenue, and that's still kind of a little the wild, wild west back in the day, and shootings are, nothing. Any call is going to be dependent on how you're going to react, dependent on who you have a personal relationship with. And what I mean that it might be somebody's name that's the victim that you just make some kind of connection with. Or, for me, my brother committed suicide. So for a while I couldn't go on any suicide calls. I just couldn't deal with it. And then I dealt with it by telling them, well, let me help you do it, because obviously you don't know how good life is, and let's just get it over with for you. Suck it up, like my mom would say. But I just I've had some crazy, I wouldn't say crazy calls, just some epic. 1993, I went to Hurricane Andrew, spent a week in a fire station without a roof.
Remember?
Wow.
And saw that nothing's God-proof.
Yeah.
And 1998 did the firestorms that consumed Florida, and then went to Hurricane Katrina. Once again, nothing's God-proof. When God wants to move stuff, he moves it,
No stopping.
And how fragile life is, because, through my fire officer classes I took, there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you're looking at these people, and you're driving around suburban, and their house has 3 feet of water in it. They don't have any food. They got no electricity. They got no cell service.
They're up in the attic. They're living up in the attic.
We cut bodies out of the attic because the water got so up there it drowned the people. So we had to go up there and cut the bloated bodies out of the attic. But you look at how quickly the switch can flip, and we go back to medieval times.
Dark ages. Yeah. No power. No water. No food.
When we'd go out on and do our USAR grids, we'd always have law enforcement escort. And we found a guy breaking into a grocery store. So cops bust him, and they're doing this and that. And he's like, hey, I got 4 kids at home. Yeah, I have 4 kids at home.
An event like that will make good people turn bad, because it's about survivability.
It is.
About survival.
It's self-worth and everything.
I do it. If it came down to that, and I got to break into somewhere to get food to survive, and you do what you got to do, especially if you have a family and kids.
So the next biggest thing for me was September 11, 2001. So my family's from Staten Island, New York, and my dad always, and we didn't have a real good relationship, but my dad was always, son, if I ever die, just make sure I get back to the family plot on Staten Island. So my dad passes away, and my mom and him had been divorced for 20 years. So I was in the middle of studying for a driver's exam, and and she's like, well, don't worry about it. Take the test. Well, he's in a box. He's not going anywhere. He's powder. And so I took the test, did pretty good. And I'm called New York. I'm like, well, what firemen do, and that's what I call the invisible insurance policy, is if you put into this profession will take care of you. I have no doubt that when my time comes and I'm preceded by my wife, that she'll be taken care of by the brothers. And we've had firemen come through here traveling down 95. They've gotten in car wrecks, and we've slapped their car on a tow truck and paid for it to be hauled to South Carolina, put the wife up in a hotel room while the husband was in the hospital. And that's something that I'm like, guys, it comes with the job, but you get the basic package. The more you do with charities, the more you get involved in the union, the more you do stuff, the bigger that package is, the better you get back. And where I'm going with this is, I know that, and I've told Stacy this, my wife, and I've told other people that as firemen, if you're ever in trouble, you call the fire department. You go by the station, show your ID, hey, So I call FDNY. I said, hey, my dad was not I'm a fireman. My dad's not a fireman, but I need a chaplain. I need somebody to, I hate to say it, put him in the ground, throw a little bing, bang, boom, and we're good. And so he's like, I got the guy for you. So about 2 a.m. I get a phone call. Hey, Jaybird, this is Father Michael Judge. I'm like, hey, so we talked for about 3 hours. And I said, well, we're going to be up there in August 2001. And so we're sitting at the Moravian Cemetery, and it's a cold, blustery day. And here comes this old black Crown Vic, and he's got a light guy on light duty driving him. And he gets out, and he reminds me of Joe Pesci. He's like, come here, kid. And he goes, son, forgive me. I look over 15,000 souls. What religion are you again? Because he pops his trunk, and he's got everything from the Quran to, he's got every he covers the whole gamut. And he did a great job. And then he was a recovering alcoholic. My mom was a recovering alcoholic. And so we had lunch at a cousin's house, and he came and ate with us. And 2 days later, I'm back at the fire station. I get a phone call. Engineer Kerr, hey, Jaybird, did we do Bruce justice or what? And he would call me every third day I was on duty up until the 11th. And he was the first victim of 9/11.
Oh,
that's a great story.
The chaplain, yeah. So
as you said the name, I was like, whoa.
So I was blessed. And even though it was such a tragic event, is the city of Jacksonville sent about 9 of us up there as just an exploration team. We didn't work on the pile. We were around the pile. But we were there just to observe the operations and come back and kind of think about, okay, what if it happens here? Yeah. Because back then, the city of Jacksonville, you had Mayport, you got Kings Bay north of you, you had Kennedy to the south, you had I-95 and 10 run through here. So they said Jacksonville's a target. It's not maybe the top 10 target, but it's, trust me, there's a missile in some silo that's got our coordinates on it. It does. And but I go every year, and I try to get the young guys to go. And I remind them that this isn't a frat party. Yes, we do drink, but we celebrate their lives. So we go up every year, and we go to what's called the West Side Memorial. It's up on 101st and Riverside Drive. And we stand at attention, 6,000 firemen from across the world. And after we ring off all 343 names, we go down to the ground zero, and then we go to I said, look, you're going to be drinking all day, and this is what you're going to find out, because we're in our Class A uniforms, is you're in uniform on September 11th, you really don't pay for drinks. Either a tray of shots just coming for you, or hey, I need to tab out. Money's no good here. So where I'm going with this is I told the guys, look, we're not in Jacksonville. It's a marathon. It's not a race.
Definitely not a sprint. And
I try to incorporate that for the younger guys when I was on the job, and even today. And I'm proud to say that I've got younger guys that I got this started with that are continuing the tradition going, because you could be at a bar and, hey, it's Jacksonville. I've heard of that, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm like, yeah, that's where you fucking Yankees come and drive real slow in Florida.
In the left lane.
Fucking love this guy. Get him around on me. I mean, everybody's a brother up there. And we do that for September 11th. I tell guys there's 3 things that ground me in my profession were September 11th, St. Patty's Day, because we march the St. Patty's Day in Savannah, and it's another grounding day because you get brothers from around the world again. Now that's just a big party.
Yeah.
But remember why you're there. Remember, on your bunker gear coat, you have your last name. I said, your last name represents your family. The patch represents your department. Respect them both.
And I've seen you in your kilt more than once.
Yes, and it's a kilt. If you're wearing underwear, it's called a skirt.
Right.
And
Exactly.
lastly is, like I said, young guys, you got to go here, you got to go here, and the last thing is go to a fireman's funeral. I'm going to try to do my best, but we just had a young kid in Apopka, Florida, die on line of duty death. And so I try to make every in-state, and if it's a multiple line of duty death, I try to go out of town, But, unfortunately what happens is they spring the funeral 4 days before, and, trying to get airfare 4 days out is incredible. But, when I left the job, I knew it was time to walk away. And for about 6 months, I won't lie, I had depression, even though I was doing contractor work and I was doing this, and God bless John Keane and the pension fund, because that is something that I do not have to worry about. But, and it wasn't even anything.
You shouldn't.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what I tell people. The old adage is firemen and cops don't get in this job for the money. No. They get in for the pension, for the benefits down the road. Yeah. And, but, the thing is, when, I'm laying in bed and my wife's getting up ready to go to work, and I walk her out to her car and I give her a kiss, and she drives off, and it's 7 a.m. I'm like, all right, yeah.
Time to make a drink.
Yeah, what are we going to do now? And that's usually what it was, And it honestly took me about a year to make the adjustment. And that's the thing is, every Sunday I sit down and I'll write a to-do list.
Yeah.
For the week.
Well, when you make
and I can do it all in one day, but I got to spread it out, because I'll do everything up to early afternoon, and then I meet the brothers at Lynch's. Yeah. And then I call my wife. I go cow, chicken, pig. I go by Publix. I get food. I cook. We watch TV. I get in the pool. She watches her Teen Mom 95 version or whatever that kills me. And we go in bed and watch some news. And
so it's just a new routine.
Yeah, it's just a new routine.
So because that was your way of life for many years, and that's part of your persona. And I know a lot of people that leave police too, and they're like, wow, wait, I'm not putting this uniform every day. I'm not doing that routine I've been doing for 25 years.
It's like our brother Troy Penn.
Yeah, right.
He's acclimated like that.
Yeah,
because you can see people. You'd be like,
yeah. He was ready to be retired.
Poopsie and, really quickly, God bless, I wish he was still alive, Tommy Mitchell. Mm-hmm. They would acclimate to it. But we have guys on the job that as soon as they left are now working in Clay County. Mm-hmm. And some are doing it because they missed the job. Others are doing it because they started Clay County and they had the FRS, and they're just tying in. So I get it. But, I look, my wife's like, man, when you wake up, it sounds like you're stepping on bubble wrap, because all my joints are popping. And I just know at my age, with my health concerns, I would be a detriment to an engine company unless I was on the hazmat, you know. So it's been a hell of a ride.
But being a first responder is not something anybody should be doing, I think, after roughly the age 50.
Yeah.
Get in early, do 25 years, and get out.
Yeah.
If you're doing this at 60-something years old, you shouldn't be, unless, of course, you're a supervisor and you're in an office somewhere.
And I still find myself very passionate and adamant and vocal about some things our administration does, just like JSOs or in any city administration. Yeah. It doesn't have to be just first responders. And I still jump on rookies' asses when I see them. Like I said, I'm still involved in our union. I do. In fact, tomorrow I'm getting up at 5 a.m. to go to Stockton Street to help cook breakfast for the union meeting. And I'm there with my brother Shane every time we do a funeral, retiree thing, or anything, and because that's what keeps me connected. And then what I do for the military, all the brothers I work with are former firemen or active firemen. So that camaraderie is still there. And, you know, I definitely miss it. You know, I will not lie. There's times I'll be sitting there and I'll hear a siren behind me. I'm like, oh, that's engine 59 coming up. Okay, and I'm coming up to the intersection. I'm like, okay, well, if it's a fire, engine 58's going to intersect right here, you know. Or sometimes I'll block the intersection for them, and they hear, thanks, Kerr dog, you know. Or we'll be going by, and that's the one thing my mom got the biggest kick out of is her car had the Union badge on the license plate and on the back windshield, and you know the engine would come up and they would slow down. Or they knew who it was, and, you know, honk, honk, and it just made, you know, like I said, I did all this for my mom, and, you know, I know I made her proud, and I, you know, I've had my hiccups on the job like we all do. I'm self-inflicted, you know, but I know I left this job better than I found it, and that's all that matters.
You should be proud.
Yeah.
You made us all proud. Not just,
I appreciate
not just
it.
yourself.
Yeah, and you survived.
And I survived. And, you know, the statistics are a retired firefighter or cop never makes it past 5 years of retirement.
Yeah, that's why they need to get out at 50-ish.
I'm coming up on 7, so I'm like, hey, at least I made it that far. We'll see how far it goes.
You see some of those guys out there working, and you know they're in their 60s, and you're like, man, you know, some of them can't retire. Some of them financially for reasons they just have to keep working. But a lot of those guys, when they finally do retire, you hear a story that, you know, he died last year, you know, a year after he retired.
And that's why I try. We tried to install this program with the former administration, and it got shot down, where we'd involve the retirees, the ones that want to, because we do a monthly retirees breakfast at Piccadilly. Why Piccadilly? I have no idea. But
that's where all the cops used to go to. So for whatever,
It was good.
It was good. It was good food. Yeah.
But the door, that place was great.
Yeah.
It's closed for us.
Yeah.
They get there at 7. It opens at 7:30. We have the meeting. It's like $4 for runny eggs, you know, chewy bacon. I mean, it isn't like their full meal deal breakfast. Right. But you can see in some of these retirees, this is the only thing they've got. This is the only connection they have.
Yeah.
And so we tried to instill something called the legacy program. And the legacy program would be, hey, Chief Steve Gerbert, you did 30-something years on the job, and it was mainly as a ladder officer before you made chief. Lieutenant Jones is new at ladder 26. Could you maybe meet him out at the training academy one day?
Yeah, mentor him a little bit. Yeah.
And mentor him?
Yeah.
And, I mean, we had everybody on board. Or better yet, hey, guys, these 10 retirees live in your first due district. Why don't you knock on their door one day?
Yeah.
Or why don't you invite them up for dinner? And just sit back and just let them talk.
Yeah.
Just listen to them. Because I always said there's 3 types of firemen, and you could, both of you, law enforcement, could probably relate. I've been gone 6 years. If I make 10 more years and you come to my house, and we've hired over 800 firemen since I've been gone, so it isn't like I'm a household name anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You walk into my house, you know there was a fireman that lived there. Because I got me an I Love Me room.
Yeah. You've got those cool plates I gave you.
Yeah, I got and they're in the I Love Me room. I've got helmets. I've got,
the fire truck
pull
plates.
boxes. I got everything.
Yeah.
And there's guys like that on the job. Then you have guys on the job that you go there, and they might have their last helmet hanging up.
Yeah. Well, I've got that one helmet, Lowry's helmet. He's never come to get it.
Yeah.
I've had the thing for like 25 years that they dug out of the attic over off of Riverside Avenue off tax support.
Yeah.
And I ended up with it somehow in 1990 something after he had retired. And I'm like, I got his leather helmet. And that guy doesn't even care about coming to get it.
And then you got guys that you go in their house, never knew they're a fireman.
Yeah.
And so, I always, the best way I tried to right people going down wrong roads was I'd always say, well, there's firemen and there's men on the fire department, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
What's that mean? But you have guys like me that were passionate.
Well, I was going to say, some people were passionate about it. Some people did it just for a job.
When I lived on the corner of Lemon and Strand, across from the Seahorse.
I remember.
And I'm 8 years old. I could hear those old Dodge Diplomats that Gary Fisk and Bobby Dean Sr. and Sambo Sr.
Right.
Because they were public safety officers back then. And you'd hear all of them come up, and then you could hear those old engines fire up. So I knew there was a fire somewhere.
Because they were all they were the volunteer fire department too, or whatever.
I'm on my BMX bicycle right on their ass. Because so there's guys always, that's their passion, that's their dream.
Yeah.
Then you have guys that have successful side jobs. But they know that side job could always go away at any moment, and that fire department job and pension.
Yeah, it seems like
there.
Seems like every cabinet business, they're also a firefighter on the side. They all own cabinet businesses for some reason.
Then you have guys that just don't know what they have, and unfortunately, the drop was the best thing ever to happen to us, but it was also the worst thing to happen to us. It erased the DNA of the fire department. You had so many guys retire, and we hired so many new guys. There's no more father figures on the job,
right?
Like sergeants or lieutenants that you're shit, I'm going to his zone.
For the drop, they were doing 30, 35, 40 years.
Yeah,
Miles Bowers.
Yeah,
Uncle Miles. Uncle Dickie. Bob Mangum. You remember Sergeant Mangum? I mean, he did 40.
I remember his patch. I think it said 40 years or something or whatever. And you don't see that very often.
No, and so you don't see that anymore, and as you shouldn't. But where I'm going with this is that we've lost that DNA of passing stuff down because people aren't there anymore to pass that down. We've almost, but I get it. Randy Wise once told me, he says, Jason, what you're bitching about now has happened before and it'll happen again. Everything is cyclic. We were bitching about facial hair just last week. They were bitching about, they actually picketed City Hall about firemen having beards. He says it's all cyclic. It's just something that you deal with when you can.
But it is kind of a shame to see people that put in 25 years or 30 years retire and not stay involved in some sense to where they can be passing some of that experience along and that knowledge, because it takes years to get that kind of knowledge, and like he 27 years, right? Think of the young guys that could learn from just from that experience.
Yeah, but sometimes I lived it and eat it and breathed it, was involved in the union, did all that stuff. Still run my mouth, obviously, and piss people off. But you do want to get as much of that pension as you can get and try to have another life. I always looked at the guys. You go every year. You go through things, and I know they give money to retirees. The ones that retired in the old days that don't have barely any pension.
No. That's what the Peyton check was for.
Yeah, so. Some of them actually do pretty well, but a guy he'll have worked 30 years and then he had another career for 25 years, after that. And if the guy passes away, because I was on the honor guard, and you're like, I've never even heard this name. The guy's been retired for 25 or 30 years, but he lived to be 90, 95 years old. That's
we do an annual retirees luncheon. That's where everybody from around the country comes, and this is the big one. And we ring off the names of the retirees. I bet you so far this year, we've had 15, 20 retirees pass away.
From JFRD.
From JFRD alone. And
cancer's
I was just saying, cancer is getting to be
the equipment's improving, but
lung disease.
One of the hardcore chiefs I ever got to work with, Chief Bob Garman, just recently passed away from cancer. And he was at Fire 7 at Moncrief and Myrtle at Station 18.
Yeah, I rode right there.
But he was one of those guys, those old salty.
Yeah, he goes in, doesn't even wear his.
No. But he's the chief. He could pull. I always messed with the old guys. Fire 7 on scene. Southern Hemisphere fully involved. Fire 7 has command. I mean, just if they were rattled, you were screwed. Something had gone south bad.
Yeah.
But his nickname was Cheesy. But back in the day, the main killer of firemen and cops was cardiac. And I said, guys, it's still a C, but it's cancer now. Mm-hmm. You know, and the
breathe all those toxic
20-something years I did on the hazmat team, and you know, I don't fret about it because it's life, but you know, I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that chemical fire we went to, and you didn't have
all that stuff you got exposed to?
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I decided to spring up now.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't think about it. But the good thing is, our unions worked with MD Anderson and Baptist, and has a great proactive cancer plan. I think it's through Jay Poffitt, so I think it's for the police too. Plus, we also have the cancer bill that was signed by the governor. So it's making the right move because the trend's there, you know. So I just I go, when I retired, I was 45. I was blessed. I got on when I was 19. And it was so funny. The first Piccadilly event I went to, they're like, "Hey, Jason, what are you doing here? Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm retired." They're like, "Retired? How old are you, boy?" 45. You swear you pissed in their grits. They were hot. But you don't see that anymore. I mean, my first station was 44 when I got there.
Yeah.
I think there was like a 15-year difference between me and the next youngest fireman, because they were all former Vietnam vets, you know, and eating their tuna fish on crackers, you know, and then of course you'd have the other agency would show up, and I always would bust their balls. There are only 3 reasons cops come to a fire station: use the phone, this is before cell phones, get a box of gloves, or take a piss, unless you're Tommy Mitchell
Or Poopsie Phelps.
or Poopsie. Tommy, if I remember, I was working.
Poopsie had a bunk. He ate there every single night.
Oh, that's where Tommy learned it from. Poopsie was Tommy's mentor.
Yeah.
Tommy would walk in, he'd take his shirt off, take his vest off, put his gun belt right there, hand me the radio, and says, "Hey, rookie." "Yes, sir." "My call sign's Mike 323. I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "I got to go use the restroom. I'll be back in a little bit." Then he'd come back. And he'd get in that recliner and just sit there for about, like, he'd take his lunch break right there. But he was in on our kitty. He paid.
That was one of the first we call them stop stations. That was a stop station.
He was his name and his sergeant stripes are still embroidered or laminated on Station 7's
That's awesome.
That's very
tabletop.
cool.
Because, here's another quick story. So we're in Savannah for St. Patty's Day. And every year I get a green IFF shirt made, you know, St. Patty's Day, whatever year, and, you know, City of Jacksonville IFF up here. And I do it for 2 reasons: to show unity. 2, when I ran the show, the chief simply said, "I don't want to see any of you on Channel 4. And if I do, I'm not holding them accountable, holding you." I'm like, "There's 100 of them. I can't be everywhere." He's like, "Welcome to my world."
Yeah.
And so I got that shirt so I could keep count of everybody, kind of. So we're at this karaoke bar, and this guy comes up and he says, "You Jacksonville fireman?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "My brother was a JSO officer. He just recently passed." I went, "Tommy the cop," and it was Tommy Mitchell's brother.
Oh, wow.
And had a good time.
Tommy was a good guy. I rode close to him.
Tommy was funny. I mean, I guess since he's passed, I can say the story because it fits Tommy so well. The Crown Vic pulls up in the back of the bay, and he's got this little chicken crackhead kid, and he gets out, takes his gun belt off, gets under there, has two 245 plates stacked on either side, busts out about 10 refs, puts it there. Puts a kid there, handcuffs him to the weight bar, and says, "You press this once, I'll let you go right now." And that poor kid's like,
"Oh my God!"
I'm like, "That's Tommy." But no, you know, it just and that's another blessed thing about being in the fire service. Whether it's my brothers here that I've met and our relationships have nurtured. My best, the the executor of my state is fireman, you know, and all my best men at my wedding and groomsmen, firemen, you know, and it's
your family.
It truly is. And, you know, when I teach out of town, I tell everybody, I said, look, here's my email address. Here's my phone number. If you're if you're staying in Jacksonville, you stay at my house. If you're in Florida and you get banged up with something, call me, because I know people. I had a guy call me, a New York fireman, says, my wife is at a Little Champ with a flat tire in Orlando. Give me the address. He's like, bro, I don't know what you did, but a ladder truck, an engine, and a chief showed up, and it looked like a fucking NASCAR down there. That's what my wife said. Fucking, they came out and changed the tire and everything and escorted her out of the neighborhood. And I said, that's what family's for. Yeah. That's what we do, brother. That's
awesome, man.
That's my motto. It's what we do.
We were in a fire station when I was like 12 years old. I used to spend the night, you know, like, you know, family, you go there, and of course they told me I could never be a fireman. I wouldn't wake up when the alarm went off, but
that's key. Yeah.
Even when I was an officer, I'd stop by the station. It would be one of my uncles or whatever, throwing smoke bombs. You go in the bathroom to go, you know, sit down on the toilet, whatever. They're throwing smoke bombs and firecrackers in there with you. It was always something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they always had a good time.
We'll have you back, man, for more stories.
Yeah, definitely.
And I appreciate you not making us do a remote podcast from Lynch's. Yeah. And that you actually came in.
Yeah. Well,
we didn't have to go set up at Lynch's.
Here's the thing, is my ultimate retirement goal was never to pass St. John's Bluff westbound.
Yeah. Today was a fresh reminder of why you. Yeah.
I tell the doctor's appointment, you want to come in about 1:30 to no, ma'am. No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not driving. No. First thing in the morning.
I ain't leaving the house before 10 unless I have to.
And they're widening San Pablo Road. Yay!
Yeah, that's going to go on for like 4 years, dude.
Yeah, it's like his 295.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
All right, hey, we got somebody else here to see us, so appreciate it, brother. Hey, you know we appreciate your service.
We do.
No, I do.
And I know a lot more about it, and would love to share some of that with the viewers and listeners. Have you back again?
Yeah,
and tell some of your quote war stories.
Yeah, and I can. I got, I'll see if Randy wants to do it. I'll tell you what you do is you got Randy and Zona in here at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
We could do it. Yeah, we could do it. All right.
Yeah,
all right, Jason Kerr.
Appreciate it.
Jason Kerr, former Jacksonville lieutenant, JFRD firefighter, and unofficial mayor of Jacksonville. Hey,
all right, guys, it's been good.
Hey, thanks for having you. Hey, and that's it. That's a wrap for Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, and Crawfish. Today's special guest, Jason Kerr. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank y'all.